Hey guys, as promised, here's a few videos on modes and how modes work. I'm going to do this in three parts, okay? So I'm going to do one which is just basically an umbrella thing that just explains what modes are and kind of where they come from, how they work. I'm going to do another one we kind of investigate each mode individually and we kind of talk about their kind of tonal and harmonic qualities. And then on the third one, I'm going to talk about how to kind of use them in maybe an improvisation or a songwriting context, okay? So there's a few disclaimers coming your way before we get onto it. Number one, if you haven't watched my video on major keys, you're really going to kind of struggle with this. So please go back and watch that. Or if you just have a really good grasp of how major keys work, then you're going to be fine. Watch the one on major keys. Watching the one on minor keys will probably help as well, because I do kind of briefly mention modes, and the kind of concepts that we're going to talk about in this video are essentially the same thing. Because when I've taught modes before, where I was taught modes and when I read about modes, they always kind of came across as kind of inaccessible, really overcomplicated thing. And actually, when you break it down, as long as you've got that foundation of the major scale, they're pretty simple. Okay, there are two things you need to understand before we jump straight in. Number one is that major scale, our tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. We take a note, start on a note, and we follow the formula tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. We're gonna get our major scale, yeah? Good, we all understand that. Number two, you need to understand this concept called tonal centers, okay? Now, for the most part, for the majority of the music you listen to, the key and the tonal center are gonna be the same thing, okay? We know that a key is a list of instructions that tells you what notes you can use within that key, okay? But a tonal center is the note or chord that the piece of music resolves to. It's the musical home of that piece of music, okay? The majority of the time it's the first and last chord of the piece of music. Not always, but that's normally the case. What the tonal center does is it kind of provides an anchor point for your brain for it to relate the rest of the piece of music to. Your brain's very clever. Everyone's brain is. When you hear a piece of music, that first note, that first chord, your brain relates everything else it hears to that first note. Okay, I'll demonstrate this point. Okay, I'm going to play two chords. I'm going to play a note which sounds horrific. I'm then going to change the tonal center, play another two chords, play that note again. It's going to sound totally fine. Okay, so let's give this a whirl. So if I go, I play this note. That sounds pretty horrible at the moment. That's an F sharp. Okay, the chords I played were a C, a G, and back to the C. Okay. That's chords 1, 5, and 1 in the key of C, so I'm really hammering home that C as being our tonal center. So when I play that F sharp, it's what we call an augmented fourth. It doesn't work. It's really minging. It sounds horrible. Okay. Now I'm going to change the tonal center. I'm going to play two different chords. I'm going to play a D major and an A. Okay, so we're going to go. Now that F sharp sounds completely fine. The reason being is, by playing those two new chords, that D and that A major, I've adjusted the tonal center. Your brain is now relating that F sharp to a different tonal center, which is why it sounds really nice. Okay, that's basically how modes work. What we do is we start manipulating that relationship between key and tonal center. The way we do this is we take our major scale and we shift the tonal center to one of the other scale degrees. Now, those keen eyes and ears amongst you will be like, but that's totally what you did with the minor scale. If you remember with the minor scale, we took our notes from C major, and rather than starting on C, we started on A, and we got the minor scale. The minor scale itself is actually a mode, and we'll touch on that more in a second, but that's basically all modes are. You take a major scale, and rather than starting on the first note, you pick a different note of that scale, and play it through, okay? So, there are 7 of these, okay? They have annoying names. They're named after regions of Greece, but that's their names, so just deal with it. Okay, so the names are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, okay? There is a kind of a mnemonic that I was kind of taught, which is I don't particularly like modes a lot. So that's I don't particularly like modes a lot. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. How you remember them is up to you. If you want to make up your own crazy mnemonic, that's totally cool, but that one kind of worked for me. Okay, so I'm just going to play them all, and hopefully you'll kind of hear what I mean when we kind of move this tonal center, because it does adjust the quality of the scale, even though no notes have changed. Okay, so the first mode, the Ionian mode, okay, is actually just the C major scale, because we're playing the notes of the C major scale starting on C. Cool. There are 7 scale degrees in the major scale, so there are 7 modes. So let's move to the next one, because we kind of know that one. If I play the same notes, again, no sharps or flats, just the C major scale, but I'm going to start on D, and I'm going to set this lovely drone underneath, just so you can really kind of hear what's going on. So we get this. One more time. Okay. It's the same notes, no sharps or flats, but the quality of that scale has now changed. It feels different. Okay, to me it kind of feels a little bit kind of maybe medievally, a bit kind of folky, a little bit hobbity. Yeah. You'll have your own emotional responses to that, and the next video will go into more detail on that. But just kind of get that kind of sound in your head. Okay, definitely not our major scale. As soon as I put that back to C, you can hear how it changes. Okay, let's move to the next one. So that if we're using C as what we call our parent major scale, the second modal degree, our Dorian mode, will be what we call D Dorian. So it's C major scale starting and ending on D. Let's move to the next one, which will be our Phrygian mode. Okay, so that sounds like this. Okay, to me that one sounds a bit kind of Egyptian-y. I mean, it doesn't sound Egyptian-y because Egyptian has a vast and rich musical culture of its own, but to my Western ears, mainly from watching films actually, there's always that kind of shot where like you see like the pyramids and you hear this. Yeah? That's basically the Phrygian mode, all that. Yeah. That's the association we've kind of made to it, and that's how I always kind of lock in that kind of Phrygian mode. It has that kind of Egyptian kind of sound to it. So we've got Ionian, which is our number 1, Dorian our number 2, Phrygian our number 3. Let's move to number 4, which would be F in relation to C major, which is this. One more time. Some people call that the super major. Just it sounds really bright. It sounds really kind of uplifting and kind of I don't want to use the word happy, but light. Let's use the word light. Okay, that's Lydian. Next one is what we call mixed Lydian, which is based over the 5th scale degree, which is a G in this case. That one kind of has a slight bluesy tone at the end. Okay. Next one is an A, which is just our standard minor scale. It's called the Aeolian mode, and now you'd, like the Ionian mode, you'd never call, which is the major scale, you'd never call the minor scale the Aeolian mode because it's just the minor scale, okay? So if anyone ever says to you, oh, play it in Aeolian, just call them an idiot, burn their instrument and ban them from ever playing music again, okay? So I'll play it to you. It's from the previous video, but let's just hear it anyway. This is Aeolian, or the minor scale. That's our 6th modal degree. And we get to our 7th modal degree, which is what we call Locrian. Now this one's pretty nasty, but you've got to hear it in order to kind of complete the puzzle, okay? And the next video will go on to explain why it's so nasty. So here we go. Ooh. Yeah, not very nice. So that's Modes 101. Okay, let's just recap what we've done and kind of how it works. Okay, so a mode, or you access modes by taking a major scale, in this case C, and changing where you start and end that scale, changing our tonal center to a different point of that scale. Okay, it does something magical. It does change how that scale kind of sounds, and again the next video will investigate that a little bit more. These are really, really useful. I know loads and loads of guitarists that love modes because it gives them access to the neck. It gives them access to the whole neck when they're kind of soloing or playing lead parts in different places. From a songwriting point of view, it gives you kind of loads of cool melodic ideas, and it'll actually give you access to different chords as well that kind of break out of your kind of standard key, which again will probably be spoken about more in the third video. So that's kind of it for now. If I've whetted your modal appetite, then do go on to the next one. If you've watched this and you're a bit like, what? Ask me, message me over Facebook, or just come and find me in college and we'll have a chat about it. You can watch this again and again and again until you get it, or you can just go on to the next one. Good work, cheers.